Audio cut off,
Yeah, I'm not
Dave?
sure. I already closed out the file. I'm recording a brand new file, so
Oh, okay. I think we
okay.
were, Brad, I
Well,
think you and I
because
were just talking about absolutely nothing when we cut off, so
You were
Wait,
just
when Dave cut off or when the hangout went off air?
when the
when
hangout went out.
Well, I'm not sure at what point Dave's computer stopped actually
you
collecting
Oh,
the
were
gotcha.
audio.
you were
well,
talking
he
about.
left like halfway through Guardians of the
Yeah, I
Galaxy.
think you were still
Like he
talking
was gone
about.
for a while,
I think you were still talking about Groot, actually, the tail end of Groot.
So,
and we had
Okay,
already
so
gone
I
through
need to.
Nebula and the Collector, and so we went off the air partways through the Collector towards the tail end of that.
well, are we
So
starting from where we lost Dave or from where we lost the
Let
recording?
Let's start where we lost
We,
me, for
Okay.
audio purposes. All right.
yeah, where we lost the recording is where we need
Yeah.
to.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so we're
Going
so
back to Nebula.
well.
Okay.
Did
So
Dave
so
hear the end of Groot?
so this is okay. This is how.
Unless Dave listens to that old audio, we don't know.
Okay, so this is okay. This is the perfect way to segue into Nebula and the Collector because these are both like villains, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Brad, you've talked about the heroes in Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you want to talk about the villains who they'll be fighting in this movie?
Absolutely. First up is going to be Nebula, and Nebula is being played by Karen Gillian, who is a former alum from Doctor Who. She played Amy Pond, and she is going to be a blue-skinned alien, essentially, and she, in the comics, the character that she portrays is a space pirate, and she's a killer. She's a kind of a dual-wielding knife fighter, and she takes advantage of people who like screw up and uses their screw ups to kind of take power for herself and get herself a better deal, as it were. She also claims to be the granddaughter of Thanos, and Thanos actually punished her for lying by actually turning her into some kind of evil cyborg zombie kind of a creature. I mean, she still looks human, but she's got like a cyber arm and some
And
other.
her face is kind of messed up. It
A
looks.
little bit. And like in the comics, I mean, she had like severe burns on her face, and she was looking pretty rough towards the last few points that I actually was reading Marvel Comics, and I saw her. So the other character, I mean, there are a couple other characters, but the other one that we definitely know about is the Collector, and we saw the Collector character at the end of the credits of Thor 2: The Dark World, and he is portrayed by Benicio del Toro, and we see him get the ether, collect it from uh, Sif and I can't remember the other dude. Anyways, two of Thor's pals, and he's going to hold on to it, but it looks like he's actually collecting. The ether is one of 6 infinity gems for
See,
the gauntlet.
Brad,
Um,
you're really pulling out your nerd cards here.
yeah, well, um, if you got it, flaunt it. We, we we saw the Infinity Gauntlet at the end of, or I'm sorry, not at the end of, but in the first Thor film when they walk through the vault area in Asgard, and there's like little trinkets kind of off to the sides of the long hallway that they walk through, but you see the Infinity Gauntlet just for a brief moment. And the gauntlet itself is fairly innocuous, but once you start to slot in the 6 gems, once you get them all in place, you actually have total control of reality itself. So,
Total control over reality itself. Holy crap!
yes, exactly. I know, you're freaking out too, right? So, anyways, that's kind of the rundown of why you should care about these particular characters, what they're about, and it looks like this film is going to be pretty darn cool.
The trailer looks awesome. I love the use of what song was that? Hooked on a Feeling, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's got enough humor, I think, that people will like it. And that was a great primer for Guardians of the Galaxy, Brad. You informed, educated, and made us excited about this movie.
And we're probably going to get some dated music. Like Hooked on a Feeling is from the late 70s. Peter Quill actually kind of leaves the Earth at that time period, so he's actually got a Sony Walkman that's got his cassette of music that he listens to, and that kind of grounds him and reminds him that he is from Earth. That's kind of a big deal for him.
So does this movie take place in the present, the future?
Yes, it takes place in the present.
Okay.
But he leaves the Earth in the late 70s, early 80s.
And obviously, Matt, you can come back to Earth and not age because of the whole
time difference.
Yeah, time difference. Yeah.
Essentially, it's a time difference. Yeah, because a year here is shorter than a year on a planet with a further equidistant radial laterus to the sun's dorsimus upper lateral.
Glutamus maximus.
Maximus.
Dorsal phoenicus.
All right.
Paleontologist.
Let's move on to the next story. We're talking Norman Reedus. We're talking Walking Dead star moving on to a movie, right, Inessa?
I don't know what you're talking about. No. Yeah, Norman Reedus is who plays Daryl on The Walking Dead. He is set to work with Robert Kirkman again. Robert Kirkman's got this sci-fi thriller called Air that he's going to be working on. And Reedus is going to be joining Djimon Hounsou, who played Horus in Stargate, I believe, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually...
And I believe he's in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he plays something the Pursuer. I can't remember the... it's not actually something the Pursuer, but I can't remember.
I think it's Glenn the Pursuer, actually.
Yes. It's Bob the Pursuer. Yep. Okay, moving on.
So, yeah, it's going to be a low-budget film, and it's going to center on a set of survivors living in an underground cryogenic facility after a nuclear fallout has decimated the Earth.
Hey, would you classify that as a dystopian future?
Oh, come on.
No. Duh. Our two leads that have been cast are the two custodial workers who keep the cryogenically sleeping personnel alive. Their goal is to re-establish society once the fallout has cleared, though things might not go that great for them as the two start having issues keeping themselves sane, while also maintaining the fragile environment that is keeping everyone alive. So, that actually sounds potentially entertaining.
It sounds interesting. I mean, I could see, Robert Kirkman's look to the things that he produces. I think it's perfect for this kind of movie.
Right. I think it's something that would work. I mean, we've already seen movies where you mainly have like 2 or 3 characters throughout the entire film, and it works. So.
Look at Moon. That was one character, basically.
Yeah, and then you have Gravity, which was primarily 2.
God, Moon was such a good movie. Ugh.
Yeah.
I have not seen Moon. It's one that I want to see.
God,
I own it.
Yay!
That's handy that you guys are going to be living together. Huh?
Boom.
So.
There was, speaking of movies with minimal characters, it's not a sci-fi movie. It was actually a giant piece of shit, but it was Ryan Reynolds in a box in the ground for an hour and a half. I can't remember what it was called, but it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life.
It was called Ryan Reynolds in a Box.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Better than Richard in a Box?
Man, I'm going to look it up real quick.
I caught your joke, Inessa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now that you caught it, I caught it.
So, apparently...
Buried! Sorry.
varied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently this movie had a different title. It used to be called Wake Cycle, and they've renamed it to Air. And it's co-written by Christian Cantamesa, who's, I guess, done some of the writing for Red Dead Redemption, which is a pretty cool
Okay.
Video
game.
game. Yeah.
Manhunt, and then it's also co-written by Chris Pacetto, who did the How I Survived the Zombie Apocalypse, and it'll be Cantamesa's full-length directorial debut. So
Cool. So it sounds like it's totally up his alley. Like this is the kind of thing that he does. It's his thing.
Totally up his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What?
but not
What?
up the chuff.
Wait. Wait. What?
I don't know what the hell's
is there-
happening.
Is there any more details on this, like a release date? Probably too early in the process, right?
I haven't really seen anything about potential release dates yet. Probably a couple years, 2016 perhaps.
See, that whole thing we talked about before. You get all pumped to see this movie, and then it's
Could
It's
you
one of those
imagine-
things I'll probably end up forgetting about it.
Could you
then again,
imagine living in life where you don't know about anything that's upcoming? If you just went through life and literally, like, you avoided all coming attractions, you avoided all internet gossip, and literally it was just like, what's playing today? And you'd be like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy, that sounds good. Haven't really heard anything about it, but, I'm going to go check it out. I think people's, I don't know, maybe that delayed gratification, like, your mind would just be blown on a constant basis because you get to experience it all at once. And I'd even go further and say, so we remove previews, we remove marketing, and we even take out the opening credits. So you get that thing going, this guy's in this movie? Oh my God, this is incredible. And you could just have that like joy overcome you, essentially.
See?
I think it would change everything.
I kind of
I've
like the
kind
way
of-
he thinks.
Yeah.
Let's do
And
a,
honestly, when it comes to movies that I'm interested in or am getting somewhat excited about, I only watch maybe the first maybe 2 trailers and then that's it. Because
Yeah.
to me, they really give away like half the movie in these trailers, and then there's no surprise. I'm either disappointed if what I expect to happen doesn't happen in the way that I want it to happen or that it was implied, or it's like, oh man, this is going to be awesome, and then it's like a big letdown.
we should
Yeah,
do
or
a,
This is crap.
let's do a
Also-
reality series or web series about a person like that is shut off from all like media, and then expose him to things that normal people would have known about. That
Like pornography.
I want to know who's the guy that sees the trailers for that stuff and is just like, oh man, I'm looking. The trailer looked really good. Did you see the trailer? Day one, I'm there.
Just
They got my money.
hey Dave, did you see the trailer for that new Booty Talk 11? Looks like a real gem.
no.
Busty redhead.
But
14.
I think the thing, and I don't know if people still have this experience because you can't really have this experience with Netflix anymore, or with Netflix and with the way that we consume media on demand. But I miss the experience of flipping channels and stumbling upon a movie, and you just leave it on, and then it draws you in, and you're like, oh my God, this is an amazing movie. I knew nothing about it ahead of time. I had no clue where it was going. Everything that was a surprise was a genuine surprise. There's no stumble upon discovery of media when we have to choose what we want to watch to stream.
And
You know?
choosing is the worst part because there's so many choices that it takes forever to find something that you really, really want to watch.
Oh
By
my
that
God.
time, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, finally
And
I
it's-
found something.
It's replaced it. I know, Dave. I think we talked about this in Spreecast before. But I've had probably a dozen dates in my life, or hanging out with the girlfriend nights, where we never made it out of the video store with something to watch. The entire time was spent in the video store having spirited discussions about, I don't feel like this. I've seen that. Wait, what do you mean you've never seen this movie? You have to watch this movie. We're going home right now and you're watching this movie. And they're like, well, some other time. I'm like, no, tonight. We're watching Heat. It's 3 hours long, but you'll love it. And I think that's the thing. So I've had that replaced by Netflix dates, like evenings at home, where it's literally like, what do you want to watch on Netflix? How about this? How about this? How about this? And you get in the same arguments, and that's the thing. It's like I think there's something to be said for the passive watching experience of literally just sort of submitting to the whims of cable operators.
Well, there's
here's what you do to replace that. You find a bunch of movies that you might want to watch, put them into a hat, and then when it comes to movie night, you just pull one out and go,
That's too much choice.
No, or what you could do,
because then you go, oh, I don't want to watch that one.
What you could do is just, if you're going to go onto Netflix, you can just close your eyes and scroll and then click. And whatever plays, you watch.
Well, there's, and I don't know if it's on any of like the Roku boxes and stuff, but it's on my PlayStation. The Netflix has this thing called Max, and it'll take like movies that you have reviewed and kind of pick and choose what it thinks you might want to watch. So you'll open it and it'll say, hey, what are you in the mood for, a documentary or a comedy? You pick one of the two, and then it'll pitch you a bunch of movies. Or there's like an I'm Feeling Lucky where it'll decide what it thinks you'll want to watch and just give it to you.
I think
it needs to go further. Yeah. I think it needs to start at post-credits. So at that point, you have no choice but to watch it to figure out even what you're watching.
See, I kind of like that though, because there's been a number of times where my wife and I have tried to do it, and it's like, hey, let's watch this movie, and it's like, nah, really doesn't sound that interesting, so let's try another one, and then you spend, like Glenn said, hours trying to find something to watch, and you ultimately watch nothing.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it on Glenn then, and wrap up this sucker with you got a pretty interesting another movie trailer, right? Or another.
Well, not a trailer, a casting announcement for the Fantastic Four reboot that Fox is doing because they don't want to let the rights revert back to Marvel, so Marvel can do it properly in the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I gotta say, the two Fantastic Four movies we saw before, with the exception of Chris Evans as the Human Torch, were, I'm trying to think of a single other redeeming quality about them. The second one, especially with the Silver Surfer, was terrible. So now we're getting the reboot, but it's directed by the director of Chronicle, which that excites me a lot because I think Chronicle was one of the better films for me. And for me, that was unexpected. I didn't really have expectations going into Chronicle. That was a great superhero story. It was different. It was original. But we have the cast announced, which includes Miles Teller, who has been in a ton of stuff lately, as Reed Richards. It's a younger cast. What's her face from House of Cards is the Invisible Woman. The kid from Billy Elliot playing Ben Grimm as the Thing. And then in somewhat of a controversial casting choice, a post-racial choice of Michael B. Jordan as the Human Torch, which I think...
Wait a second, Glenn. Is he actually confirmed as that character? Because Michael B. Jordan his name has popped up attached to a lot of movies, but nothing definite.
No, well, this is the thing. Variety is pretty certain on this, and what's funny about it is we've heard rumors about this. We have the director denying some of these casting rumors, but all of these names were in contention. Michael B. Jordan's been officially attached, from what I understand, for quite some time. He was the one I've been hearing for a year that Michael B. Jordan was playing the Human Torch, and I think it makes sense. I mean, in Chronicle, he was great at doing a confident, a little bit of a cocky character. He was great on Friday Night Lights, great on The Wire, obviously, where a lot of people first discovered him. I mean, I'm trying to think of... I actually think he's one of those actors that everything he does, he's good in. Even when the movie is not very good, I think he is very good in it. And I think it's a very interesting choice for the Human Torch. And in a way, this is the, like I said, I don't mean to make too much of it in terms of a post-racial thing, but remember all the controversy, all the discussion when Donald Glover wanted to audition for this Amazing Spider-Man reboot, and in this case we have the director just deciding this is the guy I think is best for the role, and he's who's getting it. And some people are like, oh, how are you going to explain that Johnny Storm and Sue Storm are brother and sister? Is it an adoption angle? How are you going to have that when you have one, the actress that's Caucasian and him that's African American? But I think he's a really interesting choice for the role, and I'm really excited about it. And I think Miles Teller, Reed Richards is a boring-ass character, but Miles Teller, if you saw The Spectacular Now, or, he's one of those actors as well. Even in the Footloose remake where he played the Chris Penn role, I thought he was the best thing about that movie. So I think that they're actually going with some, this isn't blockbuster casting necessarily in terms of just going for the most marketable name. I think that this is actually Fox trying to, they're agreeing to back who might be the most interesting actor or actress for the role.
Do we know anything about the story?
It's going to be a reboot. It's going to be same thing we saw 10 years ago. They go to space, there's radiation, they come back, they get powers.
I'm kind of upset that they're not going with the Ultimates story.
Well, no, they are. They said we'll be the Ultimates because they're younger. So it will be the Ultimate Fantastic.
No, but I mean the Ultimates, how they get their powers. It wasn't radiation.
What was it then? Because I did read
It was
once
Reed Richards was working on checking for pocket dimensions, other
Oh,
universes.
that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
And there was the explosion, and they were basically shifted in their forms from different universes, different versions of themselves, essentially.
I'll have to read that again. So yeah, I don't know if they're going into space, but it is an origin story.
So I think, yeah, I'm thinking they're probably going to do Ultimates then. That sounds like it.
I mean, they're younger.
Yeah, and why do it makes sense, because if you were younger, you would not be an astronaut. And why
Yeah.
do the same story all over again that you did 10 years ago?
I don't know. Why did we do that with Spider-Man? Why? I mean, why are we going to do that with Batman again in the span of, I mean, it's just it's the cycle that we're in now. Because I mean, the companies don't want to lose the rights, so you go original, sequel, and then when that drops off, you wait a couple of years and then reboot it. Repeat the process.
I wish they were that high on doing that for like a property like Star Trek. I mean, sure they're doing the movies, but there's not a TV series on site or in sight, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Agreed.
Any final thoughts on any of these stories? On Glenn's, on Brad's, on Matt's, on Anessa's, or mine, or?
Totally not related to the story, but it was about
No, I can't wait for that.
about
Yeah.
Matt and the add-on for Chrome for Cloud to Butt that he mentioned, I think, in the other earlier. Yeah, it's awesome. He showed me a link to Reddit, and there's one with Oracle, and it says, "Reimagine your business in my butt," because the Cloud to Butt basically changes Cloud
Brad,
to Butt.
show that again, Brad. I got you up now. What is that?
That's what she
game!
said.
Oh man.
Sorry.
Wow.
So the shirt says,
Oh, I suppose,
can't
yeah,
see
we
it
are.
anymore.
Oh yeah.
It says, when you want to have a serious conversation about Green Lantern, you know my email address.
But I don't know your email address, and I do want to have a serious conversation about Green Lantern.
First off, I call BS on that. Second off, you don't want to have a serious conversation about Green Lantern.
You know what? I bet there is a Green Lantern pornography parody that I want to talk about.
Are we supposed
Actually,
to know the email address, Brad?
No. It's actually from an Onion article from, like about 10 years ago.
one thing I want to say, we talked about this earlier before we had a little technical difficulty, but I think Guardians of the Galaxy looks just insane. And I said it before, but it's like Marvel is essentially doing like Howard the Duck with a machine gun with Rocket Raccoon. And I like that this is just really crazy. And it could go horribly wrong, but it looks like it's going to be a fun movie. And props to them if they could pull off something so high concept and have it succeed. Because we don't see sci-fi like that, like Buckaroo Banzai anymore. I mean, sort of just fun, spirited sci-fi. It doesn't look, dystopian in the least. I mean, it looks like a fun movie. And I think we have. When's the last time there was really a fun sci-fi movie?
Yeah, it's been a while. It has been a while. Good point. Very good point.
Yep.
I think they're gonna do. I think Rocket Raccoon's gonna do really well if he stays serious the entire time, and that's his character too, right, Brad? He's not goofy at all.
Well, I mean, he has slightly goofy moments, but I mean, he's got anger issues. He's a tiny raccoon that has a gun. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap her up then. Before we do get out of here, a couple of notes of interest, announcements before we get out of here. You can make contact with us. You can email us. Give us feedback by emailing galacticnetcasts@gmail.com. Got a voicemail number. That is 805-328-3966, 805-328-3966, and our website is galacticnetcasts.com. Go there for links to our social networks, the subscription page, all that. You can search for us on Stitcher, on iTunes, than anywhere else where good podcasts are located. And let's thank again our guest geek, Mr. Glenn Rubenstein. Thanks for joining us, Glenn.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yay!
Thanks, Glenn.
Before we get out of here, where can people find you on the internet?
They can follow me at Twitter at Glenn Rubenstein. That's GlenRubenstein on Twitter.
So, are you in charge of the twit.tv social networks?
I oversee that. That's correct.
Okay. So when you see a tweet or something on Facebook about Twit, that's you behind it, right?
Ultimately, yes. Yes, a tweet.
All right, that's gonna do it, and I call this meeting of the Sci-Fi Geeks Club to a close. Thanks for listening.
Bye, Dad.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.